2016, like you're really active, especially for like an amateur. 5 fights, 5 wins.
Yeah.
Again, is that sort of that mentality with Steve and Daniel, like, fight, let's go?
Literally, we're basically living in the gym. Basically living in the gym. We wake up, we go training, finish training, come back home, rest, go back to training. As it is now for me as well. But that time, the group of guys that I had around me as well, they're all the same. So we're all just like pushing each other, and that's the thing as well. Everyone else is fighting as well, so you kind of have to be there for that person, and that person has to be there for you. So it's just naturally you're going to be active. And like I said, at that time we're still like learning, and it was just like a very exciting time for all of us. So we just wanted to soak up as much information, as much experience as we possibly could. So for me, staying active was never a problem. I was basically living it. So I was happy to do that.
So like in 2016, like another good show, especially at the time, it's not around anymore. You fight on Warrior Fight Series.
WFS,
and that was based at York Hall. So like obviously I know you're a boxing man. What was that like competing in York Hall? So that's like a spiritual home, especially in East London, right?
Yeah.
So
obviously at that time I was quite young, so I didn't know how how much of a historical venue York Hall was for fighting or for boxing in general. It was my other coach, Chris Cruz, that was like telling me, look, this is where you're fighting. And then once I kind of got how big of a venue kind of it is, I was even more excited to fight there. And it was a very good show as well. And it was a very good show. I remember at that show, I was seeing like other people like Dominic Wooden, and I was seeing a few other fighters who later on along the line, I didn't even know I'd probably cross paths with them. But it was a very good experience because of that.
Yeah, and like when you're talking about like crossing paths with all these fighters, especially like when you look at it now for you as part of your amateur career, then you compete quite a lot for Cage Warriors. And like there you must be rubbing shoulders with like your Jack Shaw at that time, all Mason Jones, all these guys.
Paddy Pimlett, I was seeing him at that time. And that's the thing at that time as well. Cage Warriors. They didn't really have much amateurs. You know what I mean? So I think I was like probably only 1 or 2 amateurs that they would have before the main card. So that was very exciting for me as well. And obviously that was all credit mostly due to Steve for getting me on that show and letting me have such good opportunities and such good opponents. Like you said, rubbing shoulders with all these different fighters that I'd later on along the line cross paths with. So it was exciting.
So you made your Cage Warriors debut as an amateur, Cage Warriors 75. You got the win in the second round against Alan Thomas. What was that like though? Like now, so you've been through the ranks, you've been competing on these other shows. Was you aware of Cage Warriors at that time? Obviously, because Steve was competing, right?
So I think at that time I became aware. But what fight was that? Was that my first or second fight on Cage Warriors?
That is your first fight on Cage Warriors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at that time, I don't think I knew how big they really were. You know?
Camden Centre.
Okay. Yeah. So I didn't know how big it really was. I just was so excited to fight on such a show like that. And then obviously after I got the win, they started contacting me more, and I think they wanted me more. They saw that was quite exciting. They liked my personality, they liked the way I fight, and I think they wanted to get me on more shows as well. So I was just happy. I was just happy in the moment, and I was taking it all in, because a lot of that, now that I'm thinking back on it, like all the emotions and how I was feeling actually comes back because I remember it vividly. So it was an exciting time.
Because then even that, like you go right back after Cage Warriors 76, and that is in like you win by decision, and that's in Wales. So like even as an amateur now, you're doing like you're on the road.
Yeah. That fight,
it's Sean's script.
That was a tough fight. You know, crazy. That same guy even messaged me the other day, and was talking on Instagram and whatnot. It was a tough fight. I remember going into that fight. Obviously, Chris came with me, Steve came with me, Kingsley was there as well. So it was a new experience because I'd never been to Wales before. And then actually going into the fight, I remember he took his shirt off, and I was like, this guy's kind of big. I was like, this guy's kind of big, because I remember I was competing at bantamweight as well. So that was like my natural walk-around weight at the time, but I was very much comfortable fighting there, and it was amateur. I was never going to kill myself to make weight at a lower weight, but it was an exciting, very, very exciting fight. And he pushed me as well. He pushed me, and I'm so grateful to having those kind of fights at that time, at such early time in my career. But I think it's helped me immensely now.
No, absolutely. And then when like you're looking at this, like you thought like so that's the Cage Warriors experience there, like the big stage. Even though you're an amateur, you're on like you said, there was 1 or 2 amateur fights. You're basically on the main card, right? But then like you follow up with that. You're taking on you defeat Nicholas Fielding. When I was looking at that, I've not heard from like about Nicholas for a while, but I knew he was scheduled to be on like an NTK show. But that's on Shock and Awe.
Yes.
So again, that's another show that everyone's passed through. Molly McCann, you know, that's got that's like a legit show. And then obviously you follow up from there, and you're fighting on Fightstar Championship. All these shows that they're known for, like producing talent. Just a little bit about like what it was like competing on those shows. Again, like great competition, but also like really good production.
Oh, 100%. And at that time, I don't think I realized how much of a good experience that would be for me even now. Because now when I do fight on the good shows that I'm fighting at, honestly, it just feels at home. It feels comfortable, you know what I mean? Obviously, sometimes the bright lights, the big venue, the big crowd, it can get to a few people if you're not comfortable, if you haven't really done it already, and if you're not really that experienced in what it is to fight in such a big production of a show. But the fact that I was, honestly, it just felt comfortable to fight, and then the fact that I was fighting such good opponents as well. Honestly, I had no feeling but excitement. I was just always excited just to fight and test my skills against such good people on such good shows. And even to this day now, I just try to be grateful for the experience that I've had, and also be like thankful for the people, the coaches, the matchmakers of those shows that's actually allowed me to be on those shows. Because some of those shows like Cage Warriors, Fightstar, they're still there now. You know what I mean?
That's it.
And I still wouldn't even mind competing on them. So I'm just forever grateful for that.
And like, I'm just because that is I feel you and Kingsley, like that is when I first saw, before I worked there, that's when I first saw the Fight for Peace logo. With like you guys like fighting, post-fight interviews or whatever. So it registered, you know, and I kind of associated it with Daniel and Steve and then like the fighters. But like how old are you around this time when you're competing on these shows? This must be a wild experience.
No, I think I was like 18.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I was like 18, about 17 or 18. About 17 or 18. And it was definitely a wild experience because, like I said, we're traveling here, we're going there. But at the same time, we're very much grounded because we're training with such good people under such good coaches that made us stay grounded. It made us still have that hunger to train, to want to compete. To not be afraid to fight, to not be afraid to take tough fights, to obviously go up, do interviews. So it was just soaking up the whole experience.
Because I definitely remember seeing like interviews, and then it was just like that logo, like I thought it was Brazil, and I wasn't really aware that it was like London based too, especially.
And obviously at that time we're amateur, so of course I think we could represent. Was able to represent Peace due to it being amateur fights.
When you look at that amateur team then, man. Like,
full of savages, man. Honestly, there's some savages there.
And like you actually finished your amateur career against Kairu Singh in Cage Warriors. So like when was that a planned finish for your amateur career, or?
It kind of was, because I remember actually coming back in the car. Was that in Wales? I think that one was in Wales. I think it was.
Yeah, I believe it was Wales.
Yeah, cause I remember coming back in the car with Chris and Steve, and we were kind of talking about me turning over then. But then I was like, Steve, you know what? I don't think I'm done. Like I want to go back and just train boxing for a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what.
I wanted to go and do that. I didn't know that until like after the fight, because that was a very tough fight for me as well. And he was another game opponent. He's someone I still talk to occasionally. I see that he's doing well. He's fighting. I was grateful for that fight as well. But I remember that being my last fight, because I remember I got a haircut. Like even to this day, I still owe my barber like £5 for that haircut. I didn't even pay him.
It's documented now. It's on camera, man.
But
What was your highlight of your amateur career?
In its totality, I would have to say everything, man. I don't have one specific thing. Because like I said, I was I was training with such good coaches. I had such a good team behind me. I was fighting such good shows. I had such good opponents. So yeah, I'm just forever grateful for that whole entire experience. It's something that I can't forget because it served me up until now. You know what I mean, where it matters, which is the professional ranks. So I'm just grateful for the whole experience.
And that's a undefeated amateur career and one draw.
Yeah. And then obviously after that fight, like I said, I went on to do the boxing.